Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our video review of the new Swiftech all-in-one CPU coolers. We're going to be looking at the H240 X3. They do have a triple fan version of this, but we're going to be looking at the dual fan version. Take a look inside. We're going to do an unboxing, show you all the parts. We're going to mount it to the motherboard, show you how easily it mounts, or maybe how easily it doesn't mount. You'll have to stay tuned. And then show you all the features of the new unit, its expandability, what it can handle, what it can't handle, some thermal testing. I'm going to put up some features, some testing that Swiftech did, some noise levels, just about everything that we can cover on this cooler. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying tuned. At this point in our video, we're going to go through our unboxing process for the new Swiftech all-in-one H240 X3 cooler. I'm going to unbox it, and then we're going to mount it over here to our 115X CPU socket. You can see I have the Intel cooler on here now. Go ahead and pop that guy off. We're going to go ahead and mount it on the socket so you guys can see how it installs and things like that. Hopefully we only need a couple of screwdrivers. I haven't really got into the kit yet, so I don't know what's included, what it takes to mount. But we'll get there when we get there. First things first, let's go ahead and open it up. In the top here we have a nice piece of foam. There's a quality control certificate. I'm not sure if that will come in all of the coolers or if this is just pre-production. So let's not be too worried about that. But it is nice that they included that. The only thing you're not going to see in here is the cooler is in this big plastic and the CPU block is wrapped inside this bubble wrap. However, I already took it out of there because that was a little bit of a pain and I don't want to fumble through the video. There also was a, not a zip tie, a twist tie down in the bottom holding the CPU cooler in place. So you can see the very nice compartmentalized foam padding here that securely holds the cooler. You have your screws and stuff and mounting plates back here, and then your tubes and your CPU block down here. On top, we got our installation instructions. So let's go ahead and take the cooler out. Take a look at her here. Similar to what we've previously seen from Swiftech, with a lot of improvements and changes. We get our Swiftech Timmate thermal paste. There's also, of course, our mounting plates in here. So I try to get it all out of here. AMD mounting plate, AMD mounting plate. We're going to put those back since we're mounting on an Intel socket. Of course, we have our Intel mounting plate, and then we have our little fan controller here. All SATA powered, it looks like. Yep, SATA power for the pump, SATA power for the fan controller. So that's nice, so we don't have to worry about molex. And then some mounting hardware for the fan controller. Set that stuff up there. Over in the other compartment here, we have our dies, just like what came previously with the other Swiftech coolers, Swiftech all-in-ones. This one has, looks like white opaque fluid. The other ones, I believe, were clear, and then you would put the dye in to dye the fluid. There's a blue, a red, and a yellow. So you have your Swiftech dies, and then all of our screws. As far as I know from the Swiftech coolers, or from, I should say, from the Swiftech water blocks, it should be a fairly easy installation. You're going to have your, as far as Intel goes, your 2011 screw standoffs or your 115X screw standoffs. AMD setup, we'll put that back in with our AMD. And then this is going to be your hold down screws for all of your Intel sockets. So for your 2011 or your 115X socket. let's go ahead and put the 2011 screws back in there. Let's put the dies away, get those out of the way. We don't need to look at those right now. There is some thermal paste on the CPU. I'm not worried about applying thermal paste at this point. So if we look at the quick installation guide, it gives us visuals. This is for it's the connectivity for the pump, the CPU fan, the controller, orientation of the actual cooler itself, and then it shows you here there's a little button on the controller here that would control your effect and your colors. I will try to put power to the motherboard and see if I can't get it plugged in and get us some power so I can show you those colors also. Right now I'm just going to go through the unboxing and the mounting. So here we have our mounting instructions, and it looks fairly simple. Just like, you know, you put your back plate through, you screw on your standoffs, you put your block down, and you screw the top screws tight. Okay, super simple. Don't even need the instructions for this. But before we get into that, let's take a little look at the cooler itself here. So some new highlights that we have. This is one of Swiftech's new CPU blocks. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it's actually going to be a new CPU block, but it's new for these coolers. And it looks like just an acrylic top plate design here with the Swiftech logo in chrome. I'm not sure, but it looks like via this that this is going to light up. I would imagine that that's going to light up. I haven't seen actual like pictures or anything yet, so I can't tell you for certain until I plug it all in. Let's untwist tie our fan cables here. Take a better look up here at the fans. Now, unlike Swiftech's previous versions, these are lighted RGB fans. So I'm not sure if they are individual addressable illumination, being that the controller, there's no software control, it's just a button to change color. I'm not thinking that they're individually addressable. It's just going to change the whole color of the fan, and it looks as if the top and the bottom will light up here, so you'll see that double ring light up. Again, I don't know if there are, let's see here, that's for the fan CPU, for the pump I should say, and then it looks like that goes to your CPU fan, so you can control your pump speed via BIOS, and then we have our pump power back here. So that's fairly straightforward. And let's see, on our fans here, on each fan we have a fan header and the controller, or I shouldn't say the controller, but the header to plug in for our lighting effect on each fan. So I'll find out when I plug it all in, because that's the easiest way, and that's what you guys want to know. Because, okay, we're not going to be able to plug this to this because it's a 4-pin fan header that goes onto our motherboard for PWM control, and this is possibly, this is to run our lighting together. So I'm not sure if we'll just, okay. Maybe we can plug each one of these into different headers on here and have each fan a different color, or we can run them together and plug one in and just have them both be the same color. That's what that looks like that's gonna do. And then we plug each fan into either our controller here, I believe. We'll open up our controller so we can give you a peek at that and maybe get a little more explanation here. Okay, here's our controller. Channel 1. Okay, these are for colors. These are for fans. Okay, so we'll plug our fans into here, and then of course the same thing. This will plug into a fan header, and this will control both of your fans that are plugged into the controller. This gives us power to the controller. Our button here is going to change the color of our LEDs on our fans, which are going to plug in right here, or maybe here, maybe just one place. And then the CPU, CPU is going to plug in here. Looks like I can just plug in one of these fan controllers. We'll plug in our 2 fans up to the top here. Routing inside the case for wiring might be a little bit of a mess, but I've done these before and it's actually not too bad if you put this controller somewhere up towards the top at the back of your case, so that you know, you can push these right inside You can run the power down, have your power supply wires coming in, push this right up through and flip it over the top and plug it into your motherboard, and then run this to the top or the front and have these wires coming right through and coming right up to the controller. So it's not really that difficult. The only difficult part is getting this, which is your light control for your CPU. As your CPU, your motherboard will be, say, in the top of your case here, your CPU connected, so you'll have to run this up to the back. So if you have your fan controller up here in the back of your case, everything should be able to route to it fine. And then this would either be mounted up in the top of the case or in the front of the case here, and you should have plenty of wiring and plenty of cabling to be able to run everything neatly and out of the way and not have a mess of wires, but still get all of your illumination, all of your RGB stuff, your lights, your fun lights to work. So let's forget about the wiring for a second and push that off to the side, and our pump wiring, and let's mount our CPU block. This might be a little difficult when I have weird orientation here. So let's pretend we're inside the case, and this is mounted to the front of the case. There we go. That'll work good. Okay. Pop open our mounting bracket here. I believe these little white pads are sticky backed, where you could peel this paper and it'll stick and hold it to the back of the motherboard. I never do that, because usually if you line them all up and push them through, it kind of locks in place on the board anyway. If not, you just have to hold it there for a second while you get your standoff screws started. Because then sometimes, the board's getting hot around the CPU socket and that tape sticks. Now when you're going to take this off, if you wanted to switch coolers or something like that, you're wind up, with the back plate stuck to the back of the motherboard, and you're having to yank and pry, and it's just, I don't like situations like that. So these already have a nice little plastic protective piece underneath the metal here to go in between that metal and the motherboard, which is really nice. And we're going to put these down by hand, and we shouldn't need to, get a pair of pliers to grip on these, on that hex nut there, because once we put the CPU block on and then we put our top mounting screws in, those are going to tighten everything down all together. The springs are going to give everything pressure, so it's going to hold everything nicely in place. Just make sure as we start the last two here that they're pushed through the board. And this is one thing that I like about the Swiftech products, is they're a really simple, easy installation. That one, the little plastic came off. It looks like they might be like sticky taped, two-face taped to the, yeah, it's a little sticky, so that it sticks to the metal so it doesn't come off. But if they do come off like that, just stick it on there so it gives a little protection between the metal and the motherboard. Get that down like that, and then we're going to go ahead and have our CPU block mounted so we can run that up in the back of the case. We'll get our other mounting screws here. Go ahead and get them started by hand. The nice thing is they have a spring here, so you won't have to worry about over tightening. With everything else with the computer, you never want to, sit here and crank things down to where you feel like you're going to break it. Usually tight is tight enough. These are designed to, let's get my screwdriver for the last one. So all that you need with this is a Phillips head screwdriver, number 2. And we'll go ahead, and once we do snug that top, 2-finger snug, it does, you'll see at the bottom there, if you can focus on the motherboard, you'll see that it'll snug up, there we go, that bolt to the motherboard also, so it pulls that back plate nice and tight. Snugs everything up together. And just like that, our cooler is mounted. So now we have the flexibility to mount it up in the top of our case, in the front of our case. We have swivel fittings here, so these rotate around, and there's a little locking mechanism here with a screw that holds them tight, so these will swivel, so no matter where you're mounting them, they're going to swivel to. And you have swivel fittings on your pump and radiator here that go in. You also have on the back side of the radiator a fill port. Now this is important because if you wanted to change the color of your loop with the provided dies, you'd open this up, squeeze all that dye in, close it back up. You want to do that before you mount it in your case, because then once you power it up, it'll flush and it'll mix that dye throughout your system. So because you want to do that with this in a vertical position like this, so that nothing leaks out from here when you open it up, right? But the system becomes nominal in water cooling anyway, so this is a step above your normal AIO cooler just because it does have your reservoir here. Your reservoir is glass. It's not plastic anymore, not acrylic, it's glass. It does have normal G1/4 fittings, so you can unscrew these fittings if you want, right? Pop your cap loose here with this in this position, drain your AIO of all the fluid. You can undo your fittings and your fittings in your pump and your radiator here. You could rigid tube this system if you wanted. All right guys, I'm gonna start off here with the lights turned down so I can show you guys how everything lights up here. Let's go ahead and turn my power supply on. And look at this fancy mode. Kind of goes through the full color spectrum of colors, just scrolls all on its own. And you can see each color, it goes the color, most bright, middle, least bright. So there's 3 brightness settings for each color. These are all controlled by our button here at the bottom of our controller. Let's go ahead and set it to one specific color. Let's choose blue, something different. Let's go ahead and let you guys look at this here. Now I know the camera picks up the LEDs, the individual LEDs that are in here. That does more so than your eye does, but you do see the individual LEDs. Both bands do light up on the side there. And of course the CPU block lights up the same, matching whatever colors you choose for your fans. Let's go ahead and turn the light on here and we'll take a look at the controller and how we kind of wire everything together here. So we have our red cap, that's our top one here. That's our pump. That's going to give the pump the PWM and the RPM speed. That's that top plug there that's underneath the red cap. The other black caps that are over your fans here are for your fans. Okay, if you had the 360 version, you'd have your 360, you'd have your third fan plugged in right here. The next is our LEDs, and these are over here. Now the LEDs can only plug into the LED ports, the fans can only plug into the fans ports. You could plug accidentally the pump into one of the fan ports. You want to make sure you don't do that. Plug the pump into the port that's covered by the red. And then down here you have a little 2-prong that's supposed to go to the reset. It's optional to go to the reset switch on your case. I don't know if you press that, if it would reset the colors or whatever might happen with that, but that's optional. You don't have to worry about that. So while we have our everything plugged in here, if I unplug one of these fans, right, because we wonder why did you have jumpers on the fans if you have enough ports to plug everything in? Well, I have enough ports because this is only the 240 version. Did I do that right? And that's plugged in. Yep. But if you had the 360 version, you're going to want to piggyback two of the light cables, because you'll only have 3 lighting cables here. So one for the CPU, or you could choose to not plug in the CPU lighting cable, and then you'd have 3 available, but you only have 3, so you'll have to piggyback at least one of them. You could probably piggyback both of them and it would still work fine. So we see our button here at the bottom. This changes our color, and it goes through brightest, middle, least bright, and then to the next color. This one here is kind of like a few colors blended into one. Kind of interesting, something different. Again, after we come to this, it'll go off completely, and then here is going to scroll through all of our colors and brightnesses. I have both the pump and the controller plugged in via SATA power. Fairly straightforward. Now the other thing here is I have the pump controller, or not the pump controller, the little controller here, the 4-pin cable plugged in directly to 12 volt. So everything's running at max. We can feel our pump moving, we can feel the fluid moving through our lines. You don't really see it, but I mean, it's expandable. You could always add a flow meter if you wanted to in the loop here. Now what you would normally do with that is you would normally plug that directly here into your CPU fan header, and that will allow you to read the speed of the pump and your PWM settings via your BIOS settings. So you can set all of those things via BIOS. So you could set it according to temperature. You could set the fan fail warning so that if the pump went out, if your fan stopped working, it would shut the system down. And then you can also set it so that you could have it according to temperature. So if your CPU gets hot, your pump and your fan speed increase. If your CPU is running cool, everything's running as low as possible and as quiet as possible. Speaking of quiet, my camera is about 3 feet from the fans here. I'm gonna go ahead and be quiet for a minute just so you can hear. And so with that, you can hear how quiet the fans are. So really with the static pressure these fans they put out, you can feel the nice airflow moving through the radiator on the other side. And how quiet everything is. You really can't go wrong with this setup. What do you guys think so far? Leave us a comment down in the comments section below. Make sure you stay tuned as we will be right back to conclude this video and give you our final thoughts. So there you have it, guys. Swiftech knocks another one out of the park. They took their previous generation of all-in-one coolers, made it better. Glass reservoir, RGB fans, you can dim the lighting, the customization brings down into the CPU block so that your CPU block lighting matches your fan lighting. They've hit you with the performance fans, which are great for your radiator, and expandable loops. You can add your graphics card or whatever other component you might want to cool within your system. Change out the tubing, flush the loop very easily, change the color. They provide you with color additives so you can get whatever color you want right out of the box. Put different fittings on there. You can rigid tube this system if you'd like. The mounting is super simple. Copper radiator, brass tubes, copper fins, awesome for cooling, great fans, great aesthetics, easy to mount in the case, easy to mount on the motherboard. What else can you ask for? And of course, my favorite, the Swiftech Timmate thermal paste. Not much more you can ask for out of an all-in-one cooler. Right out of the box, it gives you everything that you need for the customization that you want to match the colors in your computer, whether it's the lighting or the color of the fluid. Of course, it's Mayhem's fluid inside the loop, so you know you got a quality brand fluid inside your loop also. It's not some generic or just possibly distilled water. It's got everything you need in there to keep this loop running perfectly. It's about a 3-year guide that they give you for how long that you want to run that without flushing your loop or anything like that. Add the colors, make the color whatever color you want it to be, match your system with the color of the fluid, match your system with the lighting, great performance, not much more you can ask for. Price point is right in line with all the other coolers on the market, and the performance is going to be better because you have a copper radiator out of your all-in-one cooler rather than your standard aluminum, which is what most other all-in-one coolers use. You have a customizable, and you can flush the loop. So this is not just something you use for a few years and then throw it away. You can flush it, you can refill it, and you can continue to use this system. Got to give Swiftech an A+ on this, and thanks for watching. Make sure you click subscribe right down here below. Stay tuned for our next review. Check out the full review. I got some links down here too to take you right to the Swiftech product page so you can purchase this. It's going to be one that you want to get as fast as you can because they're going to sell out quick. Great design from Swiftech. Swiftech, thank you for giving me the opportunity to review this product, and we look forward to what you guys have in store for the future products. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Give us a like. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Click on that update button so that you get all of our new updates as they come out for our videos. We'll catch you in the next one.